Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for waiting. I was out wandering in a hall somewhere. But I'm here. I made it. We are in session. Just came from executive session. So if you could all please stand for a moment of silence. And please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So welcome, everyone. I have something to read as soon as I find it. The public participation reminder. Persons wishing to address the board must sign up prior to the start of the public participation. Speakers must register on the form provided by the district at the entrance of the boardroom to maintain a first-come, first-served process. For purposes of following up with speakers, the speakers must provide their name, address, telephone number, and/or email address. To limit comments to matters which may be properly discussed during public participation, the speakers will provide the topics. Any group or organization wishing to address the board must identify a single spokesperson. Thank you for that consideration. And one more reading, a reading of the emergency evacuation procedure. In case of an emergency, would everyone please follow the exit signs to the outside of the building? Please stay completely clear of the building to provide space for any emergency vehicles. Thank you. Item 2, approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please.
So moved.
Elizabeth, second.
Lisa.
Lisa. Any comments or questions on this agenda this evening? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 3, our superintendent's update. A very exciting time for us. Dr. Terno, if you please.
Yes, the most exciting time is going to come right after I'm done talking, so I'll be very short. But I do want to update the community and really thank our Board of Education for their advocacy for the appropriate state aid that we deserve as a Victor Central School District. We are currently in a situation, and you're going to hear more about this in the budget update, where our expenses are increasing at a greater rate than our revenue. And because of that, it puts us in a bit of a fragile situation around trying to maintain appropriate expenses for the needs of the district. And one of the areas that we have the most influence on, or really will have an impact on us, is state aid. And our Board of Education has spent countless meetings with legislators from across the state and the governor's office as well, to try to really advocate for appropriate state aid because of the unique nature of Victor. Victor is one of the most unique districts in our entire state, much less this area of the state. We have a stable enrollment that's actually increased in the last 20 years. Most districts' enrollment has decreased. We have had significant increases in students with more complex needs. Every district has had that to a point, but when you have increase in enrollment, those increases in kids with more complex needs also increases at a significant rate, which obviously causes us to need staffing and supports for that. We've lost over $100 million in state aid since the state aid formula was enacted back in the mid to late 2007, 2008 area. That's probably more money lost than any district in this area. And we have an amazing community with tremendous support that's actually has actually exceeded the tax cap twice since 2016 successfully, which is incredibly rare for any district in the area. So when you combine those things, we need enough state aid to manage the staff that we finally have gotten to a level that is at least appropriate for the needs and numbers of kids and the amount of comprehensive education that we're asking for and the community's looking for in Victor Central School District. So at this point, you're going to hear again, I don't want to take the information, you're going to hear about this in the budget update, but at this point, we have a way to manage our deficit for next year. But it would be a lot easier to manage it if we had the appropriate amount of foundation aid or state aid from the governor and the state legislator when it hopefully comes out in April. So this board's going to continue to advocate for the district. We have a meeting tomorrow with a senator. We have a meeting on Friday with an assembly person, and we're going to continue to move forward and really push the envelope around making sure people understand the needs of our district so that we can continue to offer the programs that are making this district special. So I just wanted to really thank the board and just give the community an update on our advocacy, and then obviously you'll hear more information around the specific budget later today. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Terranova. Okay, we're looking forward to this one. Item 4, the intermediate student leadership update. I'd like to ask our intermediate school principal, Jim Morrow, to please come forward and get us going here. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Morrow, and I'm the principal of the intermediate school. In lieu of my campus news tonight, I'm very excited and proud that we have some of our students here from our 6th grade student council, and they're going to be sharing what they love about VIS. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Kathleen Habecker, who is one of our 6th grade teachers and also our student council advisor.
Good evening, everybody. If I could have all the student council reps come on up and join me. We have quite a few student council reps who are interested in being here tonight to represent 6th grade. We have 4 individuals who will be speaking tonight. We have Ella, Miles, Cameron, Kinley, and Ethan.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to talk all about VIS. VIS is an outstanding community with awesome students and amazing teachers who will support you every step of the way in your years through 4th grade and through 6th grade. Everyone is kind and encouraging in your day. You usually have at least 2 teachers to get to work with, a humanities teacher and a math/science teacher. The playground is a great place to spend your recess catching up with friends, and the cafeteria has lots of food options and a great snack bar. VIS is a great school.
Nice.
Hello, I'm going to talk about student achievements today. Students are always celebrated at VIS. Some achievements are pizza with principals, good citizenship coupons, and student of the month. Students are rewarded for good performance and behavior. These celebrations help motivate students. We love our school and all the amazing opportunities that are provided here. Thank you for taking time to listen to our presentation.
Wow, nice.
Now let's talk about some fun activities we do at VIS. These include field day, field trips, and field day is very fun, but it's not just fun and games. You learn how to be a team and how to communicate with others. You get to explore and learn in the coolest ways.
This year we started grade level assemblies every month and even had a school-wide assembly. This was awesome for students to be together in one place. There is also STEM Day, Theme Day, 6th grade celebration, and so much more. These are some cool activities at VIS.
We have so many fun opportunities at VIS. These include student council, the morning show, inquiries, music programs, and even Hank. The morning show is our new way to do morning announcements on a live stream video that gets students involved and engaged. Inquiries give students an opportunity to think beyond their usual learning. Music programs allow students to be creative and build confidence. Hank is our therapy dog, who everyone loves. He's a blast. These are just some of the many great opportunities available to students.
Okay, I just want to really quickly say I'm so proud and thankful that all of you could be here tonight. It takes a lot of guts to get up here and talk in front of all these people. You did an excellent job. Thank you so much for sharing all of your thoughts with us tonight. Thank you.
Jim, you could have. Jim, you could have put the microphone back up, you know.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
I think Hank is the big winner here of this, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, that was great. Thank you. And
so much.
can any of these people run for the board? We could use their help up here. All right. Thank you for that. That was great. There's our highlight tonight.
Everyone else in campus news beat that.
Yeah, well, that's coming up later in our agenda, so stay tuned. Item 5, public participation. Although the board's work is open to the public, this is not a meeting with the public. At this time, privilege of the floor is offered to those who have signed up. Did we get any? Oh, you should have stopped me then.
Right?
Okay.
Just like
So
Steve.
item 5 is complete. Thank you. Item 6, acceptance of consent items. I need a motion to accept items 6A through H, please.
Lisa?
Lisa, second.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, any comments or questions on these items? Anyone?
I just wanted to comment to, we're thankful for the donations that come into the school to help so many of these wonderful programs, like Intermediate just said. I just want to highlight the Square One Art fundraiser that is a combination of PI, PTSA, and the art department. What I love about it, not only that I used to coordinate it for years and years, but it is one of those fundraisers where it's celebrating every child and celebrating their artwork. No matter, like any child that submits artwork gets the free stickers. They don't have to buy something. So I love that it includes everyone and it celebrates their masterpieces. And then it did bring in some money for the art department.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
I'm going to offer a similar comment with regard to donations with the inaugural season of Victor Flag Football Girls Varsity Program. Super excited to see that the district is going full steam ahead with this program. These funds will help tremendously get us off and running, and couldn't be more thankful for that donation and support.
Thank you for that comment. Anything else?
I just want to, Mr. DeLucia, recognize 2 retirements. Janet Prentice, an outstanding reading teacher, is retiring as of June 30th, 2025. And Steve Limbick, an amazing school bus driver who's worked with us for many, many years, is also unfortunately retiring the end of April. We're trying to figure out a way where he may be one of those individuals as a retiree health driver who will still do some of the runs for us. But want to thank them for all their efforts and time giving back to our district, and also congratulate Jennifer Grimes, who is also unfortunately resigning as assistant principal at the high school to become the principal of Churchville Chile High School. And that is also on our agenda, but we wish Jen well, and I know she'll do a great job. So,
Yes, thanks. Okay, anything else? Then the vote. All in favor, say aye, please. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. We are at 7A, Campus News. Try and do better than the intermediate school. What's that?
Don't think it's going I'm not sure it's going to happen. If we were ranking them.
I don't think I can beat it, but I do appreciate the mic height.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good evening. My name is Rob DeRose, principal of the Early Childhood School, and I'm excited to share what's been happening this month in our school. Our teachers are hard at work preparing progress reports, which will be available to families beginning March 19th. Optional spring parent-teacher conferences will take place on March 21st. Teachers will reach out to families if they feel a conference is necessary, but any family wishing to meet with their child's teacher is welcome to reach out and set one up. Quick reminder that there's no school this Friday for Superintendent's Conference Day. During this time, we'll also take a moment to recognize 2 retirees from the ECS who have made a lasting impact on our school community. As Dr. Terranova mentioned, Janet Prentice, one of our excellent AIS reading teachers. She's been an incredible source of joy, expertise, positivity. She creates a warm and enriching learning space for our young readers. And Leanne Shattuck retired this past August after many years as a first grade teacher at VCSD. And both of their dedication to our students and families has been remarkable, and we're grateful for the many lives that they've touched. Our youngest learners had a special treat today, as a matter of fact. Thanks to the support of our PTSA, students attended an assembly with Mr. Tom Knight, a talented puppeteer, musician, and performer. His engaging storytelling, songs, and music, and puppets helped teach our students valuable lessons about kindness, hard work, and always striving to do their best. Speaking of our PTSA, we had a fantastic turnout for the 3rd annual Pajamas, Popcorn, and Movie Night in our auditorium at the end of February. Families enjoyed a cozy and fun-filled evening with snacks, a photo booth, and a movie on the big screen. Events like these highlight the strong sense of community that make our school and district so special. Looking ahead, we're excited to launch a school-wide Random Acts of Kindness Challenge. Throughout the last week of March, classrooms will encourage students to perform acts of kindness, which will be recorded on a paper chain link. At the end of the week, we'll come together for a chain linking ceremony and celebration in our auditorium, where we'll see firsthand how kindness connects us all. This promises to be a truly heartwarming experience for all students, faculty, and staff. Thank you for your continued support. We're grateful for the opportunity to foster a nurturing and engaging learning environment here at the ECS for our students. I look forward to seeing the growth and learning that comes with the rest of the school year.
Thank you.
Just before this, I had the honor to see our kindergarten and first grade students perform their multi-age play. So if you saw that, I mean, it might just top some of that student leadership. It's the sweetest thing you'll see. With their singing and acting, it was just beautiful. They've spent the last couple of weeks preparing for this and creating the set. All 3 of our K-1 classes in multi-age come together to put this play on. The students have the opportunity to meet each other, to learn to be flexible with their schedules, which can be really tricky, to problem solve and to negotiate through play. These skills are so important for our youngest learners. The students also put on 2 school performances and did this play right in front of their peers, which is also a really big deal for these young learners. So it certainly is a highlight for our students and our entire school community because they love to see our K-1 students perform this play. I want to thank the teachers and the teacher aides and families that worked so tirelessly these last couple of weeks to put that play on. One of the goals we have at the primary school is to connect with each other as adults. Our CARES Council has done a great job at putting together some events for that this year. One of those events was National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day the other day, and our counters were filled with chocolate chip cookies that our staff made. Something else we've been doing is on Wednesdays we have the Underground Spirit Days. You almost saw me in a Christmas sweater tonight, but I just had to change. The students are starting to catch on. The first couple of weeks I don't think they noticed, but today with all the holiday wear they did notice. And so it's really been fun for our staff and our students alike. Lastly, our PTSA last Friday held the Lucky to be Loved dance. It was at the primary school, and it was a great time for all the families that attended. Students were so happy to be together, and it was a nice opportunity for them to connect. Although it was in school, it was outside of the school day. We're so grateful for those opportunities that PTSA puts on for our families to get together. So thank you to PTSA.
Good evening, everyone. Brian from the junior high school. And much like the intermediate school, our student council is also quite active. So in line with one of our goals this year to help enhance connectedness between students and their grade level teams, this Friday our student council put together a presentation to share with our faculty about an idea they have to create a new event that we have not had at the junior high before that's designed to bring students and teachers together. Hopefully we're going to be running this in April. And really special about this one, this will be the first time we're having our students really kind of manage all of the logistics in the organization of the event for the school. So it's a really great learning opportunity for our kids there. Last night we had a great opportunity to welcome in our incoming 7th grade families. Tremendous turnout, which we get every year. And much like you have at a wedding, people stay on the dance floor depending on how long they've been married, right? I asked the question, who's here for the first time? Quick scan of the room was probably 80 to 90% of the people who were there for the first time. I did have a few people who said they were there for the 4th time, at which I told them they should leave and go out to dinner and they get credit because of all the other years they've been there. But a great turnout, really nice way to build early connections. Don't want to forget to mention the district strings concert tomorrow night. Our kids are super excited to participate in that, and as am I, excited to watch it. And then spring sports are right around the corner, so our kids are getting pretty ramped up for the second half, well, tail end of the year, I guess I would say. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Ciasso, principal at Victor Senior High School. A couple of updates for this month from the high school. First is we want to congratulate the 67 students who were at the DECA State Career Conference last week, the Riverside Convention Center. We have 22 students who have qualified for the international conference in Orlando next month. That's an all-time high. Once again, thanks to our work-based learning coordinator, Mrs. Utz, and business teacher, Mr. Kutaya, for their leadership and for how they've generated such interest in our business program. I also want to congratulate 2 students, Sarah Krusicki and who's a senior, and junior Emma Mastrangelo for awards they received last week. Sarah was one of 26 students from each school district in Ontario County who was recognized last Thursday evening with an award from the Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES Superintendents Group for the outstanding leadership she has demonstrated in her high school years. And Emma was presented with a leadership award from New York State Senator Pam Helming on Friday at a ceremony here in Victor. Sarah and Emma are true leaders and role models, and we want to congratulate Sarah and Emma for their leadership and for their selfless giving back to the community and to the school. We also want to make sure that we highlight our spring musical that was last weekend, Spam-A-Lot. I want to thank Mr. Hawkinson and the entire crew and the students who were involved in this production. It was absolutely outstanding, and in my opinion, and I really mean this, I think it's probably the best musical that we've ever done, so kudos to that group. This week, we have robotics competing in a regional competition this Friday and Saturday at RIT, so we wish them the best of luck. We've got Rock to Change on Friday at Monroe 2 BOCES, and next week, we have our annual senior trip, where we have over 260 students going, and for the first time ever, Dr. Terranova is going to be accompanying us on the trip, so we're very excited for that.
Good luck with that.
Yes, I know. Had my parent meeting the other night where I kind of dropped that news and the parents started clapping, and I let the kids know today. The kids are really excited. They're, so I might just stay home and let him go because they're more excited about that. So that's the news we have this week, or in this month. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I just make one comment?
Sure.
So Brian, I was at the DECA event and I presented on behalf of Nazareth University. Two things I want to specifically call out. One, Sue Utz is incredible. She represented Victor very, very well, but ran that program, and she was, I can't say enough about her leadership there. It was fantastic. And then Johanna Arnitz was there as well and did a fantastic job facilitating and working with the students. So those are two members of the VCS family that I want to call out and specifically say I was very, very impressed in my other role to see them there. And DECA is a fantastic event too, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that.
I also thought I'd call out and thank Dr. Terranova and Mr. Siesto for their participation in Spam-A-Lot this past weekend. I know it meant a lot to all the kids involved, as well as the parents in the audience, to see our administrators and our superintendent really back up these kids and have some fun with them. So thank you both for stepping in and doing that.
Yeah, that was fun. I wish I was in seat D100.
101.
101, that's, yeah.
I'm glad I was not.
Yeah. It would have been fun. Okay. Item 7B is the management plan updates, secondary goals. Karen and Brian squared.
Hi, everybody. I am Karen Finter, the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to provide an update regarding our Year 3 management plan progress, specifically what's happening at the junior and senior high school levels through the lens of their building goals. I'll be joined tonight by Principals Guy and Siesto, who I know are looking forward to sharing their building's progress with you tonight. So tonight our update will focus on just 2 of the 3 pillars of our management plan, specifically culture and learning and instruction. The principals will share baseline information that they used to craft building goals and a few of the action steps that they've been implementing at the junior and senior high school levels to improve school climate, increase student engagement, foster a warm and welcoming environment, and ultimately improving instructional practice and student achievement. They will be sharing with you preliminary data measures, highlighting some of the growth this year we've seen. Additionally, I'll share some short-term and long-term next steps, which we've identified through this collaborative process, including areas which we need to deepen our practice and use an assessment system to allow for the measurement of progress to inform collective work on our learning goals. As you remember, our annual management plan is organized around the 3 pillars: culture, learning and instruction, and student supports and opportunities. Mrs. Ryan and some of our principals earlier this year have shared with you the promising practices in place regarding our MTSS, or student support systems, the green area. Tonight we're going to focus on culture and learning and instruction, ways we can create a welcoming, safe, and inclusive community, and how to develop those comprehensive processes and systems that impact all students' achievement. So where does this work start? The 2 boxes that you see on the screen represent the types of information we review annually from our administrative team retreat. The data sets are organized by the pillars of our strategic plan and are pretty comprehensive. We're looking at things like attendance, behavior referrals, some of our SEL data, as well as all of the end-of-year assessment data, our scores, AP reports, NWEA, classroom-based assessments. It really runs the gamut. It fills 2.5 days, 2.5 days of our time together as we start to formulate building goals. The buildings really work to narrow their focus, aligned to the strategic plan, identifying areas of need, outlining action steps, an implementation timeline, and identification of measures of achievement. As a leadership team, throughout the year, we pause, we reflect on our practice, we make adjustments as necessary, and certainly celebrate successes. This type of process doesn't just happen with building principals. It truly happens in other components of our world throughout the school, including Dignity Act coordinators, the Office of Instruction team, and PPS. All follow that same kind of cycle. So what does that really mean? What does that really look like? In this work, we're trying to establish cycles for goal setting, driven from the culmination of information reviewed during the summer. You saw already this year some of the fruits of that work when we unpacked the data book together back in October. That's the really big 10,000-foot view of our data. Then that data gets distilled down to the building level, and buildings start to set those goals, work with faculties and their building leadership teams to refine those goals and make them actionable. Action steps may impact the context and content of faculty meetings as they determine building level professional development, instructional practices to highlight ways for teams to come together to work collectively on some of those action steps. And then this year, we've created a third layer to this work, where our PLCs, those that are focused out as what's happening at the classroom level, come together to look at data, and again, data that is actionable, that is aligned to standard and grade level, and use that information to set goals that drive PLC's work over the course of the year. That work has been conducted through our contractual PD days or PD time and our conference days this year. And again, on Friday, when teachers come together, they have a block of time to anchor back into the work of their PLC goal, what those action steps are. And tonight we're going to highlight some ways that our PLCs are doing that work. But know towards the end of the year this year, I'll be sharing with you a comprehensive summary of all of that work from our PLCs from UPK all the way up to 12th grade. So now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Brian Gee to share some, or Brian Siesta rather, to share some information from the senior high.
Karen, can I just ask one question? Sorry, just the slide you were just on where, so first of all, the third level, love that, because that really is right where the rubber hits the road. But then you've got 3 going back to 1. Can you talk a little bit about what that feedback loop looks like to keep this thing moving? Because I think that's probably the most important.
Absolutely, and there's probably even a 4th level in there too when we talk about individual teachers. But
you're not going to put me in there, are you?
We're going to get there. Your face in the middle. Yeah, I think it's important for us this first year through. It is somewhat of a new process. I mean, it's a new structure rather that we're trying to systematize across the district so that all PLCs have an opportunity to look at their data, set goals, develop action steps. And so we definitely had some things that we were really tight on and things that were more loose. And as we come back, we want to see the impact that the action steps had on their goals, ultimately on student achievement, much of which we'll see at the end of the year when we collect data. Because as I'll share in a little bit, that's where one of our areas of needs are. We need more interim measures of progress, but we'll get it at the end, truly, and then we can use that recursively to feed back into what are some of the areas that persist in terms of need. How does that drill to the building level? What does that look like at the PLC level? And ultimately, individual teachers too. Okay? All right, take it away, Brian.
Okay, culture is an annual and recurring goal for Victor Senior High School and across the district. We collected data at the end of last year through our spring panorama surveys that told us that different subgroups of students felt varying levels of comfort and acceptance at Victor Senior High School. The biggest area that stood out across all student groups revolved around the topic of communication. Several student groups expressed that they felt they could not have open and honest discussions about topics involving race, gender, or gender identity, or topics that in any way might connect to global or domestic events. We also had evidence through our discipline data that clearly showed student behaviors connected to inappropriate communication, both verbally and over social media, and incidents of bias and hate speech. And in addition, these surveys also showed a theme of students not feeling comfortable in some common areas of the school, such as the cafeteria and restrooms. So what do we do to address these concerns? In August of our superintendent conference days, we invited Dr. Sim Covington, the Chief Diversity Officer and a professor at FLCC, to come in and speak with our faculty about how, as educators, we can foster open and honest conversations about sensitive topics while respecting our differing opinions. He showcased this through a series of activities with the staff, and after his 1-hour presentation, it made a huge impact, and the staff felt like they were equipped with the ability to support our students, but also to foster foster the necessary conversations that we really feel like we need to have with our students in the classrooms. We held our annual beginning of the year class meetings with all 4 grade levels where the administrators echoed this message, but we've never revisited it with the students in any formal way in previous years. This year, for the first time ever, we held another event in January where Dr. Covington spoke to all 4 grade levels. We had a tremendously positive response from the students, and our discipline data shows that these efforts have absolutely made an impact. He proved that spoken conversation is valuable and that civility and respect are timeless qualities needed for our students as they mature into adulthood. We also brightened up our cafeteria thanks to Alex T-Pole's partnership. We worked with a company in Massachusetts who came in and gave the cafeteria a much-needed facelift with painted walls, logos, new furniture, and a generally inviting feeling that was missing. And I just want to point out that the students did all of the design work that you see showcased here. Students now enjoy their lunchtime, and they have expressed how much warmer and inviting the cafeteria feels. I know I've mentioned this in the past, but our new fully online securely passed system has also made an impact on our building culture. We were able to set limits on restroom usage. We have real-time data for us to know where students are at any given moment, which is a great safety feature, and essentially have been able to greatly curtail some of the behavior issues we saw in previous years. The results have been increased student engagement in their classes, less time out of class, and a reduction in problems such as the plumbing issues that were at times interfering with our instructional day. Local schools have contacted us about it, and one school in particular down the road was so impressed that they're going to start it in April because of the success that we've had here at Victor. We also want to share a little bit about what's happening at the classroom level in regards to data analysis, as Karen mentioned earlier. We spend a tremendous amount of time during our summer administrative retreat analyzing instructional data. We identified 6 specific subject areas at Victor Senior High School where we wanted to address student proficiency and mastery results. Algebra 1, as you can see up here, is one example of the work that our PLCs are doing to use quantitative metrics to target areas for improved student achievement. As you can see, last year we did have a concerning number of students who were not passing after the first semester of the 23-24 school year. There was a change in our instructional model, as well as preparing for a new June Algebra 1 Regents exam. At the end of the year, we had a 79% proficiency and 7.5% mastery rate at Victor Senior High School, which was a drop from where we normally are. So we had 2 main efforts made this year by the Algebra PLC towards that goal. The group has created cumulative review assignments that are given at the end of each unit, which are linked to specific standards and important overarching ideas of the course. And after each unit test, data is analyzed to determine the most commonly missed multiple choice and open-ended questions amongst all algebra students in the high school. Students are then given 2 redemption questions linked to the standards most commonly missed from that previous unit. So essentially, the algebra teachers are building cumulative assessments throughout the year that touch on not only the things that students might have missed this year, but also in previous year units. We've made great progress from last year to this year, as evidenced by comparing the January mid-year report cards. There's been a sizable reduction in the number of students not meeting proficiency in January of this year. This is great progress, but one missing piece is access to real-time data. And in-the-moment data tools such as eDoctrina is going to help teachers analyze standards at any given time, and this is going to allow teachers to see the entire scope of a subject area whenever they would like during the year. So those are some of the things that we're doing at the senior high school. I'm now going to turn it over to Brian Gee from the junior high school.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you again. So today we have our focus is going to be, make sure I'm going the right way here. Yes. Our focus is really going to kind of lean into the learning and instruction portion of the strategic plan. And so what you learned about tonight will how our focus on the planning process and the design process is impacting student achievement and student outcomes. So this was our stated goal for the beginning of the year. Oh, change the colors on me. So all of our goals are going to be data informed, and so we use multiple measures. At the PLC level, it's a collaboratively built process between teachers with themselves and also with administrators. And so we'll use multiple measures of data that's illustrated in this graphic. We're going to highlight 2 of those tonight because we do have mid-year snapshots of that data, and that's going to be our course performance data through the first 20 weeks, and then what we call our NWEA MAP testing, which is a universal screening tool that we use in the district, and students will take that multiple times a year. So that's going to be the data that we'll focus on a little bit later in the presentation. As part of any goal-setting process, a key to that is creating action steps. And so what you're looking at right now are the action steps that were developed in collaboration within the teacher professional learning communities and with administrators to get to our stated goal, which is having higher student success rates in the courses that they're enrolled in. And so the action steps typically will include like timelines, and they'll also include particular pieces of evidence. For tonight's purposes, we're really just going to kind of focus in on the key people that are responsible for the action steps. And in particular, I want to highlight one that we're very proud of, which is the individual teacher focus on planning. So that's kind of why that one's in the box tonight, because that's what we'll talk the most about this evening. You probably have seen something like this before. So this is what we kind of consider, it's termed our backwards design process. And essentially what the backwards design process means is it shifts the focus away from activities as we sit down and begin to plan for student learning. And it puts the focus on what are the standards and skills that kids need to know. What are the products, the assessments that we're going to use or ask them to produce to display their learning? And then what types of student-centered learning activities do we need to create so that we have an alignment between those processes, the products, ultimately leading to those standards and skills. So in its simplest terms, what we talk to teachers about, if you ingrain the backwards design process, you stop asking the question, what am I going to do today? When you walk into the classroom as the adult and you ask yourself, what do the kids need to be able to know and do, and how am I going to see what they can do? And that's really the mindset shift. And once that shift occurs, that planning process becomes pretty organic. Within that, in the design process, we sort of call it, it's really, this is the conversation cycle that we look at. So when teams get together to work on their planning for a particular unit of study or a lesson, we're asking them to start with that key question, what do they need to know, what do they need to be able to do? Then we're thinking about the level of product, what they're producing, and then we're thinking about what are those experiences going to look like. In our conversations, collegial conversations between teachers, and even during our supervision and evaluation process with administrators, we're looking for an alignment there. Because at any given moment, you might see, yeah, I really have a good handle on what they know. I think this product is really going to show me what they can do, and I've created something that's going to get me that. And then you look at it in reverse and you say, yep, I got the product I wanted, and the product told me what I needed to know. In other cases, you might look at it and say, I didn't get the product that I wanted. Now we know that the focus is on the student-centered learning experience conversation. And we have a chance to go back and reteach and redesign a learning experience to make sure we can get what we need to know. Other times, the teacher might find, I got the exact product I thought I wanted, and I looked at it, but it really didn't tell me much of anything. And so now I've got to go back and maybe rethink what I'm asking kids to do as a way to kind of show that learning. So really the feedback and the alignment is critical in the planning process for us. And that's been a focus this year. So what does that look like in action? What you're seeing here is a math classroom. And this is an 8th grade math classroom, Mr. Ellis's class, I believe. Yep. And so what we're seeing here is a student approach to learning that's called building thinking classrooms. And the benefit to the building thinking classrooms model is it's highly student-centered, it's highly student-engaging, it requires kids to display their learning. You can see them kind of displaying them on whiteboards around the room. They're collaboratively solving problems, and they're having to persevere in trying to solve those problems. The teacher in this role is acting as a facilitator. And this is actually something we're seeing this model through our design process happening in other content and grade levels, not just within math. It entered through the math component for us, but we're starting to see other departments picking up on the same thing. So how are we doing? That's the big question, right? So we're focused on planning. We believe planning and planning with intentionality is going to have better student outcomes. So going back to the data sets that we have mid-year to look at, the first will be our MAP testing data we're going to look at. So what you're going to see here is, let's take Math 8 for example. So 42.5% of our students have made the amount of growth we would expect them to make at this point in the year. So ideally that number is closer to 100%, right? But that does not mean that we're not making progress. It just means that at this point in the year, roughly 43% have made the progress we want them to make. That doesn't mean that we're still not making progress in all of our students. They just might not be at the growth curve we want. And when we look at year to year, in the areas of Math 7, and both English 7 and English 8, we are about 7 to 10 percentage points higher in this graph than we are now. Math 8, we're relatively flat. So this time last year, about the same percentage of kids were making the expected growth that we would want to see. So what that's telling us in the simplest terms is our students are making progress. We are showing inroads into increasing the rate of progress that they're making, but we still have room to grow from this measure. This one might be a little bit easier to kind of digest and understand. So this kind of takes a look at the passing rates for students in quarters 1 and quarter 2. So blue is good and gold is where we're putting the effort in. So what this kind of shows is that at the end of quarter 1, 2.2% of our students had failed 2 or more classes at the junior high school. And at the end of quarter 2, 3.55% did. Last year, we had 9% of our students fail 1 or more courses by the end of the school year. So if this data tracks forward and we maintain this pace that we're at now, we're going to see a 68% improvement in growth. So we'll go from about 9% of students failing 1 or more courses down to 3%, and that averages out to about 18 kids in our building. So from this metric, we feel like what we're seeing in the design process and the planning process is carrying forward into student learning within the measure of their course performance. So we wanted to highlight both of those data sets. The other data sets that we look at will come later in the year, and that will be through our New York State testing and any regions testing that we have as well, and that typically comes out for us late June into August. Thank you very much.
Okay, so just some next steps about where we're going. As I mentioned, we'll be sharing an elementary update in April, showing progress aligned to the annual management plan through the work of the building goals of our elementary principals. In May and June, I'll send that or highlight that comprehensive look at all of our PLC work. We've learned a great deal this year with our annual goal setting cycles. We recognize that we have a need for our teachers, PLCs, and even our school and district admin to have access to information that tells us how students are progressing toward learning standards real time, not just in June, in an organized system. Teachers right now are the keeper of their grade books. We have course performance information, but we need to see that standard progression in a more uniform way. So we are phasing in eDoctrina. It's a consistent assessment platform so that by the end of June 2026, all secondary common assessments will be in that system. We even have K-6 teachers using that system as well, and we'll be working in a collaborative way with PLCs to put in some of our district benchmark assessments, not just our normed assessments in that system. And then finally, the algebra PLC example that Brian shared, it's clear that those teachers have a strong data culture. Right? They use the information that they're collecting from their students on a regular basis to shift their instructional practice. Those revisiting questions or redemption questions is a good example of that. We recognize that not all teams have that same comfort level in looking at data. And so we need to continue to build practice to look at standards-aligned data and use that information to inform planning and instruction in meaningful ways. We need to be able to think about what does that differentiation look like in our classroom based on how students are progressing towards this standard, not just a one-size-fits-all. And then finally, we're still working very hard to deepen teacher understanding of the backwards planning process that Brian spoke about across all grade levels and subjects. It should be the foundation for planning instruction, and we know it plays an important role and creating the conditions for a student-centered learning environment. Through the focused professional development across new educator orientation, induction, faculty meetings, and certainly our PLC time, I'm confident we can deepen student understanding and drive effective practice. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Questions, comments, anyone?
I have a comment first and then two questions. This was great. Thank you for highlighting it at both buildings, and I liked being able to see different, like the culture piece at the high school and then some of the academic data from the junior high. In that last slide from the junior high, I think it was the algebra class, is there, nope, go forward a little, or towards the end. Right there. Is there a way to like look at that data further and see like the makeup of the students? So students with disabilities, ENL, and kind of slice that in a different way?
Yeah. Yep. So this actually represents all courses.
Okay.
Not just, but to answer your other question is, are we able to identify who that 3.55% are? Absolutely.
Okay.
And so what we do with our department leaders and our PLCs is I share out the list of eligibility. It's the easiest way to generate it through our co-curricular program, and I share that back with names.
Okay.
And the conversations are happening in that level to say, what is it about this student that stopped them from achieving what they needed to? And there are very few surprises ever when we look at those names of lists. They're usually students we're already heavily involved with, either on a social emotional support level, an academic intervention level. There's very few that just sort of show up and it's a name that you kind of like, wow, where did that come from?
Okay.
So there's good and bad in that, right? It's predictable in some regard, but the same thing is sometimes those problems are really hard to solve. And so that's where we're trying to put our efforts into.
Yeah.
And I also want to give a plug to Liz Temple, who's our data coordinator, because what I'm doing this year, similar to what Brian's doing, is when I ask for data like this from Liz, she can break it down by student subgroup, demographic data, however you want to organize it, and she's been a fantastic resource because we're not just looking at the number of students who are failing. We want to see exactly who it is and how it lines up with our goals. So for us, it's been invaluable. She's a great resource, so I want to make sure I give her a plug.
And it's so great that you have that capability because it almost makes me think of the data book that we saw this fall and really being able to, you know, look at those subgroups and see where some of that breakdown might be it predictable or, you know, potential surprise. And then the eDoctrina that you referenced, even with the K-6 piece, does that follow students through the district, Karen? Like, so can it kind of chart where kids are going?
So,
or we're not using it in that way?
Well,
or?
we're not using, I'll say this, we're not using in that way right now. So right now it's, students are in their, in the system with their student ID numbers. So it is possible to look back, like in math, for instance, to track fourth grade standards and then how are they progressing now in fifth grade. Like that capacity is there. Right now, we're on the level 1, trying to get assessments in, questions tagged appropriately to standard, focusing on skill development. So that capacity is there, Elizabeth. It just, I don't.
Not there yet.
Not there yet. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
However, if I can, I know we're not there, but I was looking at I was like looking the tool up as you were talking about it. And there's one particular piece here that I'm very curious about, and I think goes back to that feedback loop question earlier, which is the RTI practice. So to me, that has some early intervention that's not, I don't know if I'm using the term correctly with regard to summative versus formative, but it allows for some of that early intervention. My question would be, have you thought about or discussed a plan to bring other support service folks in addition to the instructors, right? So I think that's part of that network of care and culture that I think Mr. Siesta was talking about.
Absolutely, whether it's special educators or academic intervention providers, our reading and our math specialists, certainly, because in their intervention, targeting particular standards or even particular skills is critical.
And my guess is that helps facilitate automation, meaning it reduces the time to that response. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, that, and you're not hand sifting. You can see pretty quickly where common needs are and then group associated with those common needs or build intervention plans associated with those common needs.
I also was really glad to see at the end of your presentation, Karen, where you talked about data culture and building that data literacy. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, if we don't have that data literacy of understanding the why behind what they are doing, it's data for the sake of data, which doesn't do anything to help any of us. And really having that data literacy is obviously it's going to build alignment, transparency, trust, and everything that. And
What's the term? Analysis paralysis?
Right.
Yeah, we don't want that.
no, so I think it's really important. Like you said, there are some teams that are so embedded in this and so understand it and are living in it every day, but there are others that are not, and there are going to be new teachers who are not. So that is such a key component to all of this, is really building up that stamina for data.
Okay, other comments? Great job. Thank you, folks.
Thanks.
Okay, we are at 7C, and I want to take care of this piece of business first, to authorize the bond proposition and the legal notice for the May 20th, 2025 annual vote and election. Do I need a motion for that, please?
Brian?
Brian, second.
Carol?
Carol? Any comments or questions on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, let's do the budget development update then. Christine and Dorothy, please.
Good evening. We're here, Dorothy and I are here tonight to give you a little bit of update on the personnel side of our budget, but also give you a little overview of where we're at, something that Dr. Terranova had expressed earlier that we would be presenting on regarding our total revenues and total expenditures. So tonight we're going to talk about the goals of the budget, obviously personnel, budget update, and at the end we'll talk about the next steps in our budget. As we do at every meeting, we review our goals for the budget, and those are to enhance a comprehensive education that the Victor Central School District community expects, improve the alignment of resources towards the district's strategic plan, maintain the stabilization of reserves, maximize the use of every dollar spent, maximize the ability to generate aid for the future years. Thank you for your advocacy. I've sat in on those meetings, and that's been very refreshing, those conversations. And of course, as always, transparency. I'm going to hand it over at this time to Dorothy, and she's going to talk about personnel.
Good evening, I'm Dorothy D'Angelo, the Assistant Superintendent for Personnel. So first thing we're going to take a look tonight are some facts about our enrollment. So our net growth in enrollment, K-12, is 22 students, and the bulk of that increase in enrollment is at the elementary level with 23 new students. You'll notice if you look at grades 2 and 3, we have a reduction at second grade of 20 students and a reduction in third grade of 36 students. At the intermediate school, conversely, in sixth grade, you'll see there's an increase of 47 students. So that bubble is moving upward that was in fifth grade and a decrease in fifth grade. As we worked through building the personnel plan for next year, we really keep these class size numbers at the forefront of our mind because we worked very hard to right size staffing so that we could have appropriate class sizes. So this is just a reminder of what those parameters are that we really try to stay within throughout this process. So our staffing decisions are based on two areas. They're based on efficiencies and budget neutral additions. And efficiencies are savings that we've identified as a group through three things. Shifts in enrollment, some of those you've just seen. Trends in student course preferences, which I'm gonna share some examples tonight at the senior high. And then really some opportunities for sharing staff. So we're really looking closely, are there any possibilities where we can share staff? And then in addition, I'm going to talk about budget neutral additions. And those budget neutral additions mean there's really no net increase in terms of cost for staffing next year. The cost of the proposed positions that I'm going to share with you tonight are all being offset by the savings from efficiencies that I'm going to identify. And it's really important to note that there are no projected cuts of people or programs at this time. So as I shared with you previously, we had a decrease in enrollment in second and third grade. So 2 FTE elementary general education teachers, there will be a reduction, 1 in second grade and 1 in third grade, for a total of 2.0 FTE elementary teachers. Again, we're still maintaining that class size, that's our target size, because we've had a significant drop in those 2 grade levels. Another area that we found an efficiency is in world language. So we're proposing a 0.6 reduction in world language. And that's really born out of the fact that at the senior high, students have options to choose from for its advanced designation. And we're seeing a decrease in students choosing to take Spanish, and French enrollment has leveled off and is flat. In addition, there are opportunities to share staff again in this role between the junior and senior high, which is helping us to reduce that. We also have a reduction of 0.4 health. We're not reducing programming for students at all. What happened is when we reduced those 2 sections of general education at the elementary level, that creates an opportunity for existing health and PE staff to pick up and cover those additional sections of health that were previously covered by a 0.4 position. And then we also found an efficiency in the area of technology, that would be a 0.2, and that technology position is also driven by enrollment based on student choices. We want to certainly maintain and are committed to continuing sequences like Project Lead the Way, and this shift doesn't impact that pathway at all. So as I was getting ready for this presentation, I thought this looks much different than it has in years past. Every year I've come up and said staffing is going to level off. And we have had a long-range plan for building the staffing we need in all the areas, and we are in a great place with that. We continue to look at personnel needs in relation to those 3 pillars of our strategic plan. So culture, learning and instruction, and student supports and opportunities to ensure that the recommendations that we're making aligns with the long-term goals of the district. And as you see some of these positions tonight, you'll know that they're areas that we've been building up and focusing on over the course of the past 3 to 4 years. So at the primary school, we're recommending the addition of 1 full-time nurse. Our long-term goal was to have 2 nurses at all times in our 4 largest buildings: the early childhood school, the primary school, the intermediate school, and the senior high. This will complete staffing so that we have 2 nurses in each of our buildings. And if any of you have been in those buildings, those nurses' offices are busy places, and we have a great staff. We've consistently worked toward supporting our students that get special programming, our students with disabilities, and we're continuing to expand and support the ICT program. So we are looking to add a 1.0 FT teaching assistant. That's going to be a transition of an aide position to a teaching assistant. So it's just the difference in cost between the aide and the teaching assistant position. And then at the high school, we are looking to add 1 full-time teaching assistant, and that's to support a self-contained classroom at the high school level. And then this year we were very fortunate. It's our first year of girls flag football, and Dewey shared that there's 35 girls that are signed up for flag football. We're really excited to offer that. And this year the cost was offset by a donation from a business as part of a community outreach program, and the donation was for the current year only. So in order for the program to continue for those students, the cost of the 2 coaching positions would need to be covered by the district. Oops. We are certainly not done with our work. We're meeting every day to talk about enrollment, look at the needs that have been requested as the cabinet team, touch back with principals, and we'll continue this work, and I'll have an update on March 20th when we meet again. Any questions about the personnel?
I do have a question, Dorothy. When you mentioned the VPS full-time nurse position, that was a neutral addition. Our school nurses at Victor, are they nurses like RNs or LPNs, or are they the school nurse teacher certification?
We have RNs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. Thank you for focusing on keeping class sizes small, because as you know, my kids were going through when there were 25 kids in a class, and it is, I don't know if, I know you in education understand it, but I don't know if a lot of parents and people listening, like there is definitely a difference in kindergarten between 18 and 22 kids. You know, it's like, it's just night and day. So to all of the non-educators, that's an important focus. So thank you for keeping that.
I would agree. Thank you.
To be fair, I'm not sure it changes when they're 21 either, but.
Okay, so continuing on, I'm going to give you a little bit of update on where we are as far as the monetary side of our budget. One of the things that you will see on the ballot this year is the annual continuation of our bus replacement plan. Next year, that total, we would be replacing 6 large diesel buses and 2 small gasoline buses. So we will, there will be a proposition for going out to finance the purchase for $1.5 million. So rolling everything up together for all the work, I want to give a big shout out to Richard Stutzman, who did a lot of this legwork prior to me arriving here. He did a great job, but this is kind of pulling all of those pieces together from the prior presentations. Looking at that right now, it looks as if our budget bottom line for the 25-26 school year will be $108,971,405. That is an increase of $5,746,486, or 5.57%. Looking in at the numbers, you'll see, you know, professional salaries and support staff salaries. We're able to, I believe, and if I remember correctly from my conversations with Richard, I know there was some shifts from some support staff salaries up to the professional salaries line, I think in the way of the teacher aides positions. Equipment is actually going down 29%, $293,000, while contractual is going up $846,000. So those are really a couple of the big drivers. BOCES is going up 14%, and of course our health fringe benefits, which a lot of that is driven by our health insurance, is going up 6.42%. Health insurance alone, though, is a piece of that, has gone up over 10%. On the revenue side, we covered this at the last budget workshop, but I'll give you a little overview of that as well. Again, what we're looking at for our tax levy, which is at the allowable limit, is 3.04%, which would net us $1,785,957 to cover the increase in our budget. State aid is the disappointing number on this slide. Right now, it's coming in an increase over last year's budgeted amount at 0.89%, which is only $350,000. Some of that is a netting. I know if you saw last slide or last presentation, our BOCES aid was going down. I think that there's an opportunity in there for that to go up. And of course, all the advocacy you guys are doing, we're hopeful that in April, we have some better numbers from coming out of the state. But overall, we only have $2.1 million coming in, or 2.12% increase in our revenue side of our budget. So if anybody's following along, when we had a 5.5% increase and a 2% in expenses and a 2% increase in revenue. So what that looks like is we do, at this point in time, show a gap, but it's not anything that we don't have a plan to work to cover. So right now, that gap is $3.5 million. I'm going to jump ahead, and I want to talk about the efficiencies. So one of the options that Dr. Terranova and I have been talking about is obviously we feel that with strong advocacy and also diving into what's driving our BOCES aid reduction, we feel that our state aid numbers will come up. We are also looking at utilizing some of the current year contingency that we have built into our budget and allocating that towards this gap. And the other side of that is reducing next year's contingency that we allow for. And also, we will, right up until the 11th hour, obviously continue to refine expenses without cutting programs for our students. One of the things that I want to talk about is one of our goals of our budget is stabilizing our reserves. You've been very fortunate over the last few years with the fully funding of foundation aid to have been able to build up your reserves and be able to have some feeder money for this capital project. So last year, you ended up with $34 million in your reserve accounts. Through reducing those and transferring some money from your tax certiorari reserve up to your capital reserve, you are going to, at this point in time, with interest and everything posted, you're at $7.3 million. And we don't want to touch that, obviously. $7.3 million on a $103 million budget is 7%. And that's not a lot to have in savings for a district our size. So we want to always be thinking about increasing that reserve so we have a little better of a cushion. So we absolutely don't want to dip into those reserves. So we're trying to stabilize that.
Christine, you mind going back one slide?
Sure.
Just want to piggyback on what Christine talked about on this, maybe just get into the weeds real quick a little bit. So we have a $3.5 million gap right now. We believe we can shrink that to some degree with the advocacy of this board to try to shrink that down, hopefully into the $2 million range if we get the foundation aid that we really deserve. And Christine's doing an amazing job trying to dig into the BOCES data to figure out if we have more BOCES aid than we currently look like we have. Then what we need to do is every year, we've talked about this publicly, we try to budget 3 to 5% of contingency, which is money left over from expenses that could either be used for emergencies or put into reserves. In the last 3 years, we've been able to put all of that money and more, to be honest with you, that we've saved during the year into reserve, which is why that slide after this shows that we used close to $28 million of that to pay for the capital project that's in the works. This year, that we're in a different bit of a situation, so we're going to need to take some of that, hopefully $3.5 million left over in expenses at the end of this year and fill the rest of that gap that we currently have for next year. And then hopefully there'll be some of that money left over out of the $3.5 million to put in reserves. Another strategy is to shrink the gap a little bit more, is to tighten up our contingency for next year. So this year we're looking at $3.5, hopefully, $1 million left over in expenses. Next year we could shrink that down to $2.5 billion for the 25-26 budget, which would lower the expenses slightly, which would mean that we wouldn't have as much gap to fill. But the negative of that is now you have less wiggle room in the 25-26 because instead of having $3.5 million left over, you have closer to $2 million left over, and you're starting to get closer to almost having none. The bottom line is this is a measure that we can use for 1, maybe 2 more years. But if the expenses continually outpace the revenue, then this strategy starts to disappear. And our goal next year is to keep that $7.3 million?
$7.3 million.
Our goal next year is to keep that $7.3 million in reserves and maybe be able to add just a little bit to it. What we are glad is that we're not going to use that 7.3 million towards next year's budget, because that shrinks your reserves, and that gets into what you'd call a death spiral in terms of a budget. So the point is, I didn't mean to get too far in the weeds, but that one slide, back one, those strategies we're going to use are going to be critical to being successful next year and not touching our reserves as we build the budget.
Okay.
So what are our next steps? Obviously, we're going to continue to monitor the development of the New York State budget. We're hoping to have that information in early April, but there's several further advocacy meetings that are scheduled coming up, and they've been very positive and seem to be very well received. So let's hope that has an impact. We are obviously continually looking for efficiencies within the budget to see if there's anything that we can do better. And also, we have an update coming up on March 20th. Beyond that, so there's the budget workshop and with an update on the 20th, but then on April 10th is when we will be reviewing the final budget and adopting the budget for 25-26. May 6th is your budget hearing and a Meet the Candidates night. May 13th is voter registration in the district office. And then Tuesday, May 20th is your budget vote and the Board of Education election. Do we have any questions?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The one house budgets haven't come out yet?
They did come out. We don't have the state aid runs from those. I don't have that broken down. There were some, and I don't have it with me right now. There were some positive suggestions. For example, increasing the weighting for aid for English language learners in the formulas. There was also a suggested increase and it's a small portion of our aid, but it's nice for our libraries, is giving, I think it's like $11 instead of $6 a student for library materials aid. Trying to think of what other factors are in there that might impact us. I know they have some things that'll positively impact other districts that are at the 2% limit. They're suggesting a 3% minimum for other districts. We are beyond that, which is nice, but still not enough for us. Was there anything that you pulled out of that, Dr. Terranova?
No, not. I think you covered all.
Yeah, I think the ones that would impact us, there really wasn't a whole lot in there that would impact us.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question on the enrollment projections, Dorothy. This is like my classroom teacher hat at the elementary level. If we're looking at that slide that shows the projections K-12, if elementary is overall increasing, can you speak a little bit about the elimination of those two full-time positions at elementary? Is it because overall elementary is going up and it's not enough per grade level to justify those sectionings? Is that
exactly
correct? Okay. So like we're growing maybe at first and fourth and fifth, but there's a dip in second and third, so overall
correct.
We're
so
still
overall,
growing, but it's not enough to foster a class size.
correct. And that kindergarten number is always an unknown number.
Oh yes,
right?
I'm very aware.
So, I mean, I went back 6-7 years, and just for example, in 22, 23, we were at 283, then 23, 24, we went down 14 students, we were at 269. Then last year, we were up 13, so we're just going to keep watching the number. But that does explain the phenomenon that we're talking
So over the summer, is there ever an opportunity that if those second and third grade classes seem to have a growth of enrollment over the summer, then what would we be looking at? Larger class sizes, or would we be adding a section?
So in years past, many years past, we would plan flexibly, wondering if we needed 13 or 14 sections, and as a building leaders would plan, this is what it looks like with 13, this is what it looks like in 14. One of the things we're continuing to discuss as a group is, do we need a bubble position that could be put where there's a need, right? Because while going back and looking at data, there is not a predictor for any particular grade level, we oftentimes will have one grade level that pops. But I can't predict where that will be. So the prudent thing, if we could pull it off, would be to have a bubble position that we could use if needed.
So would that affect the 2 full-time positions then? So it would really only be 1 that would be absorbed?
Well, we haven't used all of the efficiencies that we have yet. We're still looking at some other options. So we would still be looking at a budget neutral way to accomplish that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I hate to ping pong, but Christine, you might want to advance a little bit toward the line items for the budget. So and this probably could facilitate a further discussion at a later point. But where do we account for energy costs on these line items here?
That's your contractual, and that's driving a lot of that. So
Yeah.
it's funny, I just was looking at an email from our consortium, and in the 24-25 school year, we're experiencing a 30% increase from what we had budgeted. So this year, we're actually very tight. So that number last year was budgeted slightly low because you budgeted in the springtime before all of these things occurred. They're actually saying above and beyond that 30% that we have to factor in, we also have to factor in another 10%. So that's one of the reasons why that contractual code is going up. I can't tell you right now off the top of my head how much of that is relevant to that particular topic, but I could get those numbers if you want.
Yeah, I would be curious only from the talking point perspective, right? I know we're doing advocacy. I think these are, I mean, these tend to be heavily politicized issues, and I don't think that's really what we want to be doing here. But by the same token, we're sort of beholden to a lot of that decision-making process, and I think it would be good for us to be able to make that case and have that conversation. I'm sure everybody is, but I think it's a relevant piece, and I'm just curious how we work that in.
And I can get you those numbers. I agree with you. I think sometimes percentage is one thing, because percentage of a small number is a small number, but percentage of a larger number. So I think if you have those dollar figures to go along with the percentage, I think it might be more effective. So I'll absolutely get you that.
Otherwise, I think we should all go to LL Bean and, see what they've got on the shelves there.
Is there any other
Anything
questions?
else? Thank you.
Just thank you for continuing to find all these efficiencies and trying to work with what we have. Well, the state aid is unknown.
It's a team effort. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like you're going to continue with the capital project update, along with
Yes.
our friend George.
Yes, next on the agenda, am I fast forwarding this? Okay. So next on the agenda is a capital project update. It's George Spinaris from Campus Construction and Cameron Cunninworth, is that how it's pronounced? They're going to present an update for you.
I think you're right.
Good evening. Nice to be here. Nice to see the board again. So thank you for having us. So we'll just run through our presentation. Okay. So we have a breakdown of 4 different items here. Budget breakdown, phase 1 scope, updates in the budget, and project schedule. So just as a reminder, the referendum that was passed was $99,419,031. There are 3 phases to the project. First phase, we're currently in schematic design phase, so we have a construction estimate currently right now at $14,800. Construction contingency is a little over $870,000, and the incidental budget is just shy of $3 million. The total estimate right now that we're tracking in the SD stage is a little over $18.5 million. So we are working currently in the DD phase on first phase, and we should have budget numbers, I guess the next presentation or whenever you would like us to present. Phase 2 is in conceptual stage right now, and the construction budget is a little over $41 million. Contingency for phase 2 is just shy of $3 million, and the incidental budget is just shy of $10 million for a total of $54,113,456. Phase 3, in conceptual phase again, is just over $22 million. The construction contingency is just above $1.5 million. Incidental budget at a little over $5 million for a total of $29 million which would bring us close to the $99,419,031. So I'm going to let Cameron jump in now.
So some of the work involved in phase one at the early childhood school, it's PA and clock upgrades, and that's captured under safety and security. The primary school is also PA and clock upgrades. The intermediate school involves 31,000 square feet of roof replacement or roof restoration. So we are selectively removing portions of the roof that are not in good shape and repairing those by replacing parts of the roof, as well as PA and clock upgrades at that school as well. The junior, senior high school, PA and clock upgrades throughout the school, turfing field number 7 with ADA accessible sidewalk, and 94,000 square feet of roof restoration, again, selectively replacing portions of the roof as necessary. So those square footages may change as we are able to inspect the roof as the weather is changing. We have not been able to inspect all of the roofing, so that number may come down and may go up slightly. Part of phase one as well is the renovations at the Victor Learning Center and the Operations Center, which is becoming part of the CTE program. So the Victor Learning Center, we are working on interior renovations, renovating the toilet rooms, reconfiguring some of the rooms for a classroom and a professional development room, new roof, new cladding on the exterior, as well as site lighting and parking lot upgrades. Part of the new roof and exterior improvements is improving the thermal efficiency of the building. There's not a lot of insulation in the building, so we're repairing a lot of that. The renovations at the Operations Center involve a classroom, 3 vehicle bays for demonstration, and work areas for the students. So those are some of the images you see there. We're reusing a vehicle lift as well to help students get hands-on work learning.
So just a quick breakdown of phase one, which is, again, a little over, well, close to $15 million. So safety and security at $6.4 million, and that encompasses the soccer fields, the ADA walkways and pathways, and the PA and clock systems. Building renovations and innovations, just shy of $4 million, which include the Learning Center and Operations Center. Facility repair work at about $4.5 million is the roof work and RTU work, rooftop units. And again, bringing us to right now the estimated value of just shy of $15 million.
So right now for phase one, we are in the DD, design development phase. So that will be submitted to facilities planning and the SED on May 30th of this year. Scheduled bid opening for phase one is January of 2026, and then breaking ground in the summer of 2026. As we continue on phase one, we are continuously working on phase 2 and 3. But phase 2, we are in schematic design right now, which we are submitting on March 28th. And then design development for phase 2 will conclude at June 27th of this year. And then the construction documents phase will complete in February of 2026. Any questions?
Board members, anything?
I do have a question, and this is somewhat tangentially related to my last question previously, but from a contingency planning standpoint and supply chain, are you anticipating any issues there with regard to expenditures or revisiting your contingencies?
At this point, I pretty much have to say yes. With everything going on with tariffs, I mean, I'd be foolish not to. So we don't exactly know where everything is going to land, but we do have a pretty healthy contingency and an escalator for the next foreseeable future. So we carry it about 22% at this point. So, you know, as the design develops, there are opportunities to value engineer the project, have discussions on other types of cost savings as we move forward. we do protect the budget with alternates. And that way, when it does come out to bidding time, that we do have those alternates in order to make sure that we have the budget to be able to build the items that you're looking forward to. And if we're fortunate enough, like last project, and we have some extra money, then we can have or do some spend down projects. But right now, we're pretty confident of our numbers, and hopefully everything tracks.
You're just going to turf the roof, right? And
Yeah, if you
wall it
like,
on.
we can do that too.
Double dip there a little, yeah.
Little ADA issues if we do that, but
No, thank you. I appreciate the transparency, and I agree with you. It's wait and see, but I appreciate that.
my pleasure. Any other questions?
I guess not. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Same. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, we are at item 7E, rescind the following trip. Yeah, you saw the note on that. Art Club to New York City from 5/16 to 5/18. So a motion to rescind that, please.
Lisa?
Lisa, second.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth? Comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Opposition? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you.
By the way, before Mike Modlowski sneaks out the door, I think we should take a moment to thank him for all his help with the advocacy work. And we appreciate you being in on all of these meetings. That teacher voice is incredibly important to everything we're doing.
Here.
He is here now.
No, his coat is still
His coat is still here, great. But just want to thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for including us, is the other one, really.
Okay, 7F, approve the following trips. Outdoor Activities Club to Adirondack Mountains, 5/15 to 5/18 for a backpacking trip. Seas Club to Adirondack Park, 5/16 to 5/18 for a camping trip. Seas Club to Honolulu, 3/28 to 4/4 for a science, culture, and history trip.
And on that one too, Dr. T?
Yeah, I think they got confused. That's the trip I'm actually going on, not the senior trip.
You know, I really think the board should start to take more of an active role in these remote.
All righty then, motion please.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, second.
Lisa?
Lisa, any other comments?
Have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, item 7G is the policy review, first reading for the compulsory attendance ages, policy 5130. We've had some information on that one. Any comments or questions for the first read?
Nope.
Moving on, H, policy review, first reading for the student records, policy 5500. Any comments? Not first read. We'll continue with item I, policy review, third and final reading for the school volunteers and visitors to the school, policy 1901. Motion, please.
Brian.
Brian, second.
Lisa?
Lisa, any comments, questions?
No.
Third and final, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. What is this one? Item J, Wade and Finger Lakes, BOCES Board of Education nominee. Need a motion and someone to nominate somebody.
I will give that motion, and if I can also give a nomination.
Yep.
In the same.
Yep.
I nominate President DeLucia for that role,
I would second that nomination.
if you're willing.
Yes, thank you for that. Dr. Terranova and I have a plan if I am successful.
It's a grand plan.
Tim squared plan.
Yeah, there it is.
I have no
Tim
doubt it
squared.
could be successful.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
Good luck.
And thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you, folks. Meeting reports. Monroe County School Board Association committee reports. Anyone? There was one today that I attended. It was,
The roles and responsibilities?
yeah.
Yes.
Which, basically was a good
Yep, it's a good
review
reminder.
of discussions we have had many times. So it's always meaningful to hear it again and go through it and make sure, you're aware of what needs to be done. So that was an hour's worth of good information. Anything else? Standing committee updates? Okay, item 9, upcoming events, the budget workshop on March 20th at 6:30. Next regular meeting will be April 10th at 7:15 right here.
We'll
Close
bring
to somebody's birthday, right?
It's the day before his birthday, so we'll bring
it?
cupcakes for an early
And
birthday.
your birthday
And mine,
It's
yeah.
close to that too, right? So,
Yes.
all right, and then special board meeting for Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES administrative budget and election of board members, Wednesday, April 23rd.
And this is the in-person meeting, correct? We cannot do it over Zoom?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So we need at least a quorum for that.
Okay.
And it's pretty quick. 5 minutes, probably.
And then we go to breakfast.
Right. Anything else for the good of the district? Motion to adjourn?
Lisa?
Lisa, second.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. We have had our meeting. Thank you.
Do you think they'll appreciate that much?